So it's about time we got down and did something about it. Now, nobody forced me, but I always had a feeling that Jesus is only a prophet, one of Allah's prophets, and I thought that the Muslim religion was the only one for us. So I decided.
So you already had this embedded in the background of it somewhere.
It must have been. It wasn't something that popped up after seeing the rather, what I consider to be appalling way the country had gone downhill with so much promiscuity and greed, gluttony, and what have you, all the evils that the Holy Quran tells us we should avoid and fight. So I decided to become a Muslim. Nobody twisted my arm, nobody forced me, but it is just through Allah's intervention that completely, almost not accidentally, but I was making a money transfer to some poor Africans in South Africa who were suffering. I'm not a rich person, but through them, through a money exchange shop, an internet cafe, which was run by a Somali chap. Now, I'd been to Somaliland, and my brother had been a doctor in Somaliland at one time, so they weren't completely strangers to me. So I realized that this fellow was quite a religious Muslim, religious Somali, rather, I should say. And he introduced me to the Al-Muntada Al-Islamic Center in Parsons Green. And I went down to see them one day, and there and then I was accepted. I made the Ashadu.
The Shahada.
Shahada. Excuse me, I'm really...
That's all right. Go ahead.
And I went, and then on the 10th of June, 2008, and it's been the best thing I've done.
In your whole life, now you're talking about through your whole life. What does this stand out as the most?
I think it must be. Yes, it is. Certainly the most rewarding, and to be speaking to you today in this place, it's almost miraculous.
It is for me as well. I have to tell you that ordinarily when we have guests, I don't like to interrupt them, but I have to tell you something. The minute I met you, I was so happy to make your acquaintance, and I prayed that Allah would let us be together for this Hajj. I'm so thankful to Allah for us to get to be here for this, the experience that we shared together, people we met together, things that happened. Some were kind of comical, some were a little tough.
Yes, it hasn't been all that straightforward. It never is. But as you said to me, I think on one occasion when you saw me sort of not falling by the wayside in that extent, but falling down, you say, well, it's not supposed to be easy. It's really hard, you know. And so I sort of braced my shoulders again and sort of dug into that Scottish toughness, you know, and survived. It was. I'm very, very thankful to you, not only to you, but to all the brothers that have been in your team here. They've looked after me so well. Without the strong arms and shoulders of our brother from Colombia and South Carolina, I don't think I would have made it on the last day, which was very, very crowded. But I managed to get up close, pretty close to the Kaaba, and this I could hardly believe that. I hardly believe I was there, you know. I'd seen pictures of the Kaaba in the old days in Aden, and it seemed to be a small building in the middle of the desert. And I arrived here, and you know, you can hardly. Oh, it certainly was an experience that I didn't expect, but everything's worked out very well. It's not easy for an 85-year-old person. I have to go into the details there. It's not easy, but thanks to you and your team, I've managed to survive.
We say thanks to Allah that any of us survived.
That is very true.
I want to ask you now about the word in Arabic. It's called Tawheed, or monotheism. How important is that?
I think it's very important. It's very important to everybody, irrespective of the sort of time in life. But when you get old, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past, you've got to look ahead. What have you got to look ahead to? You've got to look ahead to the afterlife, which Allah has promised us. And to get there, you have to belong to the Muslim faith, follow the advice and the rules, and live the rest of your life in the way that Allah and the Holy Quran instructs you to do. This is easier for a person like myself who's had a belief in God, although it hasn't been shown very much, but has a basic belief in God. It's easy to make the conversion. It might be more difficult for you to convert people who don't believe in anything or worship anything.
You're saying atheists would be harder to come to them.
Yes, I would think so very much.
That's been our experience, actually, that the atheist is committed to nothing.
But I think, well, that's true. But going back to Africa, which I had a lot of experience there, most Africans in part of Africa that I've been to have never had any real chance, of knowing about the Muslim faith or having anybody tell them about it. And they're people that I think would welcome some initiatives there, because they have a basic belief in a God.
One of the things we spoke about earlier is the ease of understanding, I guess, the beliefs, because it's not difficult to understand there's one God, do what he wants you to do, but to implement it or put it into practice, this is where the difficulty comes. The
difficulty comes, of course, it's with an individual. It's I have an age now where they, shall we say, the sins of the flesh are behind me now, and I haven't really been drunk a martini for a few years, and I've never been a gambler. I don't believe in the stock exchange, and I'm not a greedy person. In fact, I'm struggling to keep my weight down. I live on less than £3 a day, which is about $6 American. So but it's not everybody can do this. So I appreciate that. It's going to be hard. Maybe
some people, it's harder. It's not about giving up a form of religion. It's giving up a form of, I think, worship of the material things.
Oh, very much so. The material things, and as we've seen now, I mean, they're all falling apart a bit. But the material things. I mean, you've only got to go to a supermarket in London and see that people. In medical terminology, stricken with obesity, walking out with trolleys full of liquor and food, enough to feed an army of Africans, for about a month. And this is just the weekend business.
And so much waste.
Oh, yes, terrible waste. I never waste anything. One of the things, it's nothing to do with my being a Muslim. It's just the way I'm built. I never waste anything, because if you had surpluses, you would give them away to people who needed it. As I do. I support a family in Africa for many years now, and every year I go out for a couple of weeks, and I don't go over to Zimbabwe at the moment, but this year in April I'm going back to South Africa, and my friend will bring the old pickup down, the bakkie as we call it, down, and we fill it up with food and take it back to his place and go out. I'm hoping to go with him to see some of his 4 children, because I haven't seen them for a long time. But that's my interest in life. I live by myself, but I look upon them as my family, and it gives me something. You don't just sit and do nothing, but you can't do a great deal if you're miskeen.
Miskeen means?
Means being rather poor.
Impoverished.
Yes. Impecunious. We're
going to throw out all the big words.
Gosh. Yes.
Let us now ask you to give us, as you did throughout the Hajj, the pilgrimage that we shared together, all of us, and there were quite a few of us together. We looked forward to hearing from you on many occasions. We would ask you questions, and now, again, we're going to ask you to give us some advice.
Well, I'm not very sure